So the first thing I kind of want to touch on is this idea of descendancy research, which is something you've probably heard, and um, we've heard some concerns, I shouldn't be doing my collateral lines, I only want to work on my direct lines and so forth. The way I like to talk about descendancy research is if I kind of start by looking at it from my perspective. Like I'm standing at the beginning of a road, and if I look back at one of my ancestors, I see a line of people. I see my father and my grandfather. I see my great-grandfather, Benjamin Franklin. I'm sure you've got an ancestor with that first and middle name. Then his father, who's Ambrose, and his father, and then all the way back to one of my ancestors named Mordecai Taylor. So when I look at that, that's a single line. There's just a few individuals on that line. And I've done the research and I've done the connecting, and most of the temple work is done. So this line is all sealed together. So I look at this line and I think, well, that work's all done. I don't need to do anything. What I like to do, though, is if I switch my perspective and I put Mordecai as the main person on the tree, and I look at Mordecai looking back at me, he actually doesn't have just one descendancy line. He has children. He has grandchildren. He has great-grandchildren. He has great-great-grandchildren. He has great-great-great-grandchildren and great-great-great-great-grandchildren, if I got enough greats in there. And I'm actually just one of those lines. I'm just one single line. So whereas I think my tree is full because I've gotten all the way back to Mordecai, maybe Mordecai looking out that doesn't agree because he's connected to me, but is he connected to all of his descendants? We talk a lot about sealing people in families, that we want to seal them, we want to be a family for eternity. We want to make sure that we give all of our ancestors that opportunity. And so my ancestor wants to be sealed to his children, and his children want to be sealed to their children, and so forth. So really the process that we're going to use today is discussing this idea of descendancy research. And Elder Anderson said if your chart is complete as mine, there's still very important work for you to do. And we call this finding our cousins. Finding
It seems like all my family history is done, but I still want to take family names to the temple. I can find names by doing descendancy research. Descendancy research is the process of finding the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of my ancestors. Many of these descendants have not yet been found and are waiting for temple ordinances. I can do temple work for those who were born more than 110 years ago. I start by signing in to FamilySearch.org with the same username and password I use at LDS.org. If you don't have an account, you can register for one here. I click Family Tree and select the Fan Chart view. Using this view makes it easy to find one of my ancestors who might have missing descendants. I choose an ancestor who was born before 1830 and who probably had descendants that were not members of the church. If most of your ancestors were early Mormons, you may want to choose an ancestor born in the 1700s. To find someone born before 1830, I move my grandfather into the main position by clicking the fan icon below his name. I look through his grandparents and review their person cards. William Greast was born before 1830. He died in Illinois, and his ordinances were performed after he passed away. This information leads me to believe that William was not a member of the church. He may have missing descendants I can find. I move William to the central position and change my view to Descendancy. This lets me see William and his descendants. Under Settings, I hide the portraits to see more of his descendants at a glance. I expand the chart to see more of his descendants. These are my cousins. These icons assist me while in the Descendancy view. The green icon identifies missing temple ordinances. The yellow icon suggests that there may be records available for this individual. The blue icon points to gaps where there may be more people to add to the family. The red icon warns that there are data problems related to this individual. To easily find missing cousins, I look for both a yellow icon and a blue icon together. This means there are more records for the person and probably more family members to add. I find a yellow and blue icon listed for one of William's daughters, Rhoda Greast. Rhoda married a man named Albert Graves. The blue icon indicates they probably had children. I can learn whether this is true by finding Albert and Rhoda on a census record. By clicking the yellow icon, I see a list of records Albert and Rhoda may be in, including the 1880 census. I compare the information from the census to the information in Family Tree and confirm that this record shows my cousins. I give a reason why I think this information is correct and attach the record. The census shows that Albert and Rhoda had 4 sons. After I verify this information with other records, I add their sons to the family tree. I do this by clicking Add by each of their names. After adding the sons, I can reserve their ordinances. I return to Descendancy View. If there are possible duplicate records for a descendant, I need to research that person further. Just a few minutes ago, I thought my family history was done. Now, I have found many ways I can continue building my family tree.